Recession or not, that's the question. Globally, we have seen that people have become more pessimistic about the economic outlook. If we look at forward-looking indicators, indeed they all point downwards. For example, sentiment indicators clearly signal that the global economy may still face more challenges in the period ahead. For example, also industrial production is still shrinking in several Western countries. Nevertheless, we aren't so pessimistic about the economic outlook. Generally speaking, we still see lots of positive elements, and in particular some countries clearly go against this international trend. While major economies like the US economy and the German economy are clearly on a growth slowing path, there are other economies that are still holding up quite well. In Western Europe, for example, France and Spain, but also the Netherlands are doing very well. While, for example, in Central Europe, actually all economies are clearly very resilient to what we see globally speaking. So we do expect some growth slowdown in the global economy. After all, the US economy is in a late cyclical phase. The Chinese economy is already slowing down for many years. But in particular in Europe, we expect that the growth slowdown will be a temporary phenomenon and that the European economic growth outlook will improve, gradually speaking. Now, the sentiment deterioration is mainly caused by two very disturbing factors, disruptive factors even, namely the trade war between the US and China and Brexit. And on both fronts, actually, there has been quite positive news recently. First of all, the US and China signed the first trade agreement, probably only a first agreement in a series of many more, because they decided to continue their negotiations. That's obviously good news. It's only a small step forward, but hopefully there will be more positive news in the near future. On the Brexit side, we also see that there is more inclination and preparedness to continue talks, and hopefully this will ultimately lead to a deal between the European Union and the United Kingdom. So since these two disruptive factors are going into the right direction, this may obviously help economic improvement and economic recovery in the global economy. Monetary policy remains another very important stimulating factor. All major central banks continue to have very low interest rates, and they continue to use unconventional monetary policy instruments to boost economic growth and inflation expectations. Obviously, it remains to be seen whether monetary policy alone will be sufficient to boost the economy, and there is a growing call for more fiscal policy stimulus as well. It remains to be seen whether this will actually happen, in particular in the European Union context. Nevertheless, there's also criticism on central banks, in particular in the euro area. Some people question whether the latest decisions by the European Central Bank are justified and whether the ECB is taking into account the long-term negative side effects of its current unconventional monetary policy. It's a very intensive debate, but a very important one also regarding the future and how monetary policy should be done in the euro area in the future. In order to determine the economic outlook in the future, it is very important to keep an eye on labor markets. Labor markets always have a very important signal function. As long as there is job creation, as long as there is wage growth, these two factors continue to support the economic outlook. That's what we are currently observing in most economies in the world, actually. We still see continued job creation, for example, in the US, despite the sentiment deterioration. We also see job creation continuing in many European countries, although at a slower pace. And obviously, more domestic consumption will continue to support economic growth and economic recovery. So therefore, we will keep an eye on labor markets in the near future, because they can give important signals about what to expect from the economy in the near future. So to conclude, we don't share the pessimism that we observe around the world. We do see some deterioration in economic sentiment, some slowdown in particular economic activities, but generally speaking, we are still relatively optimistic about the economic outlook. We do believe that the domestic economy might be so resilient and may help to support economic recovery at large. There are positive signals at the global stage where we see that the trade war and Brexit are going into a better direction than 1 month ago, so at least we are hopeful that the economic outlook will become better.